Welcome to the Boss Mode Podcast, where we discuss the future of work.
Fresh back from the motherland, got to go to Singapore and eat all the char kway teow and Hainanese chicken rice and ate
I love my Hainanese chicken rice. That's my favorite dish from Singapore.
Damn right.
Better than the chili crab?
The chili crab.
Yeah.
Chili crab's a novelty, right? You got to do the Hainanese chicken rice. Got the last time I went back. Every time I go back to Singapore, the speed of expansion in that country is absolutely insane. Got to sit down. So I went there, I went there because Meta invited me to speak at a cross-border leadership forum for their high-spending clients. So you've got nine-figure brands in there, several legacy brands also. I was told that Nike, Jaguar, Land Rover, those people were in the room as well. So always interesting to see what Singapore does because of the fact that it's a country of 6 million people, and yet there are nine-figure brands operating from there. And these are, most of the brands in there were bootstrap started in Singapore, so beyond the legacy brands. So it's always fascinating to see the frame of mind and to talk to operators where their frame of mind is, from day one, it's international. We can't just sell to Singapore and Singapore only because the TAM is 6 million people. So we need 100% market penetration in our own country. We're going to make it. And even then, we're not going to make it a whole bunch. So that was always very fascinating.
Singapore's such a phenomenal story because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Singapore's economy was smaller than Malaysia's.
Oh, yeah.
And then Singapore made some fantastic decisions around drama-free governance and just rule of law, but also freeing up a lot of regulation so that the foreign investment could flow into the country. And it was just played in a very intelligent manner. So today, Singapore's economy is, how much bigger is it than the Malaysian economy?
Mom was schooling me on this. She goes, son, do you know $1 Singapore dollar now is 330 ringgit, which is the Malaysian currency?
Yeah.
So we drive in all the time and get our gas over there, and then we get our groceries, and I'm going, wow, 330. I don't know about the GDP, but in terms of currency arbitrage, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm looking at a list in Wikipedia. 2025 estimates according to IMF. Singapore GDP per capita, $92,930. So let's call that 93K. Malaysia, $13,000.
Woohoo! Wow.
Crazy. They are the Asia Pacific headquarters for Meta, aren't they? Is that where you went?
Yes. Yeah. They're just so many APAC headquarters based out of Singapore. I call it Asia Light for a bunch of reasons. Everyone there speaks English. Corruption is, or at least obviously visible corruption is low. And they got the best of both worlds, right? They've got, and I'm going to do the air quotes here, democracy, but they've had one party in power the entire time since independence. And Singapore got booted out of Malaysia. It's not like there was some kind of uprising or anything like that. Singapore just went, this whole communism thing's turning out to be a bit of a nuisance in our side here. So, you know what, Singapore, you're out. So they just flicked Singapore aside. So it just came out of nowhere. And then same party the whole time. So you've got this long legacy, almost Xi Jinping type, multi-year, multi-term policy setting and execution, as we don't have the noisy kind of midterms and all that. So really got to pave the way. It's an impressive place, man. It really is an impressive place.
Yep. But you chose Australia. You're in Australia now.
I chose Australia because for citizens, they keep everyone really in line. You chew gum, forget it. You're getting fined. We might even cane you. So when it comes to civil liberties, that's when they tighten things up and restrict things a little bit, make sure everyone stays within their lane, does what they need to do. So that's when I went.
There's a Singapore way, and they expect
totally
to do it the Singapore way.
Yeah. Our way or the highway.
Got in a lot of trouble.
Is a very real thing over there. So took the values, but chose a different landscape. That's what I did.
Yeah. Today, we've got a couple of, I think we've got a good episode today. We've got a couple of things to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about an extension of our previous episode, talking about AI companions. I've got some revised thinking on that. I was vehemently against the idea of AI companions, and now I've got some nuanced thinking, and I'm excited to share a little bit about that. An extension of that, I want to talk about data in AI. We're going to talk about how these large language models are starved for more data, and more data is important. It's an important vector of improvement for them. But where else can they go for data? Who has more data available to them? I think that's an important thing to discuss. I think that I read a book this week because I heard that this acclaimed Korean director, he's one of my favorite directors of all time, Park Chan-wook or Chan-wook Park. He directed Old Boy, one of my all-time favorites, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. He's just a fantastic storyteller. So he recently screened a film at the Venice Film Festival to a just fantastic response. Critical response was fantastic. It was based on the movie. Sorry, the movie was based on novel The Axe by Donald Westlake. And so I read that book this week. I want to talk a little bit about that because it covers themes of unemployment and just dark take on society and just the decisions faced by man when unemployment becomes prevalent. And then number three, that was number three. So we've got AI Companions 1, Parched for Data 2, and then number 3, Hollywood's embrace of the theme of unemployment. We've talked about the importance of everybody becoming their own CEO. So I've been thinking, and you and I talked about this before we started filming, so this isn't me just unilaterally naming this thing, but we're thinking of going with boss mode.
Boss mode, man. That's exactly it.
Well, what do you think about the name? Share your first reactions to boss mode as the name for our pod.
It's such funny timing because my buddy is starting a venture in Singapore for it's a self-care center for individuals who are really into life optimization and maximizing health span. So the way he explained it to me is if Brian Johnson's a 10, we are like if you come to our centers, you can dial it up to a 6 or a 7. Right. We got the hot cold experience. We've got all kinds of stuff. We'll have people in there helping you with your diet and all the type of supplements, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, would you mind? And we're launching in several weeks. Would you mind looking at our go-to-market strategy? And clearly they did the whole dance around getting a branding agency to come up with the naming and the typography and the iconography and all that type of stuff. And I went, is there anything else that they did for you? Because he sent me the invoice also. And I was like, okay, let's chuck that aside for a second. Do you think that when Nike started, the word Nike meant anything to anyone? And he was like, what are we going down this lane? I go, because guess what? We can infuse meaning into the name across time. So I'm very I guess the story being, I'm very non-precious about naming. That's why I was flipping and be like, even double D, we can kind of make that work. But as long as the crux of it, it does what it says on the box. That's the primary piece. As long as it does what it says on the tin, we're pretty much good to go. Then we can just have fun within that sandbox. That's why I like boss mode, because it's like it allows for a sandbox to then go, okay, within this sandbox of boss mode, where can we go? Is it a good enough vehicle? Because if it's a title like David and Dee talk about AI, okay, now you're in a smaller tin. And you can't really go a whole bunch more outside of that without people going, well, wait a second here. I thought, why are we moving into employment and work and all that other stuff? I thought I just came here for the digest of what's happening with an AI. So boss mode makes sense.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I hope people will get out of the podcasts that you and I are doing together is feeling empowered to go forward and become their own bosses and unyoke themselves from this worldview or this like paradigm of I am an employee. I need the company to tell me what to do. I need that job security, because that's a fucking illusion. Companies are not giving you job security. That shit went out the window decades ago. I remember decades ago standing in front of the Nortel office in Toronto and watching a stream of people walk out with cardboard boxes. That happens.
Yeah, I remember you told
there is no job security.
It's wild. Exactly. And I think just even in general, right? Like if you can, I was always brought up this way. If you can Grandma told me, because grandma lived through the Second World War. She was a young teenager when it happened and descended upon Singapore. So she always told me as I was growing up, the only person you can rely on is yourself.
Yeah.
Because the government can tell you, the government can tell you whatever they choose to tell you. When the Japanese show up, all that goes out the window. All you can rely on is yourself. I didn't see no government when the Japanese were here. I'm going, okay, grandma, I guess that was so that got just drilled into me the whole time, that no one's going to come save you besides, unless you can save yourself. So that was always the mindset going in. Meanwhile, on the other side, a large part of the Asian way is, especially in Singapore, is just be the salary man, right? Just keep your head down, work through the ranks. One day, the powers that be might anoint you and say, you have been chosen to climb through the ranks and manage a bunch of people, and we'll take care of you and all that. And even then, people get rug pulled all the time.
Yeah. And if set aside the rug pulling, even the actual experience of being a bot, of being a chess piece on a board that's moved around by your manager, the person who manages you, unless there is something, the financial part of it, I get it. It's important to have a paycheck. And while that stuff still exists, I think that a paycheck is a healthy thing to have as one of your income streams, but it should not be, when you're thinking about earning, the paycheck alone should not be your master plan for an income for yourself. I think that you need to find a way to earn your own income outside of employment. But that employment experience for most people is a pretty terrible experience. I would say that if you're working for someone else, if you're making gobs and gobs of money, good on you, because then you can use that. You could turn that into investing in yourself. And I get that people need to sustain themselves, and we do whatever it takes to sustain ourselves. And part of that exchange might be employment. That's a part of the blend business for most people. But there's more that you can get out of employment. And I would think that boss mode even applies to an employee. If you're an employee and you've got that boss mode hat on, then you are an empowered individual. You're an individual who treats your experience and your work as though it is truly your work. Ideally, the company where you're working, maybe there's equity involved, or that's very Silicon Valley-esque. But truly, if people work in a way where they truly exhibit the characteristics of ownership mentality, then that's healthier for all parties involved. It's healthier for the customer. It's healthier for the employer. And it's certainly healthier for the individual, because the individual is going to be gaining so much more positive experience that is actually, I think, a reinvestment in themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Once we realize that all we can rely on are ourselves and the myriad ways that sentence can hit, he starts to go, yeah, sure, the job's there. That's great. But then on top of that, outside of that, in the times that I have in between me showing up at work and clocking out of work, what else can I do? Where can I go play? What can I build? What can I tinker with? Where are there apps that I can put out, or web apps, or something that can make me either a side income stream or just be able to afford a passion for me to pursue? And now you can even have that. If even you can't even say, "Oh, but I don't have anyone to talk to about this type of stuff." Guess what? For $20 a month,
don't trust the large language models chatter
sure.
too much, because oh man, somebody told me a story about a young man who was contemplating suicide, and he was talking about suicide options with, I think it was ChatGPT. And initially it pushed back against these themes, as you know, ideally these systems should be designed to. But eventually, as this kid persisted, it helped him think of ways to off himself. And my God, for all of you out there, whether it's an AI companion or like a vanilla chat experience, remember it's a machine on the other end of it.
Totally. It's just a very sophisticated autocomplete. So keep that part in mind. Absolutely. But
again, it's an autocomplete with access to all of humanity's written and recorded knowledge.
Yeah, that's how that gets folded into the sophisticated part for sure. But I think that also comes back down to self-reliance, right? There are those that then go, yeah, you know what, I am going to lean into AI, and then there comes this codependency or over reliance on the tool where it robs away the thing that it can actually. It's a bit like fire. You can go into the tool and use it as a thought partner with the mindset that it is a tool, and tools can be picked up and put down, and tools can also be disregarded when you go, you know what, I don't quite agree with that, or I need you to cite me more data or cite me more sources before I actually believe what you're saying. So the hallucination part is super real. I also read this. Actually, my kid told me about this story when I got back yesterday over dinner. He goes, "Did you hear about that one guy who was having a conversation with GPT, and then they somehow managed to get to the place where he was convinced his mother-in-law is a spy for the Chinese government?" And then I light up and I go, wait a second, it'd be really funny if neither of them were Chinese.
Oh,
because I'm like, if neither of them was Chinese, that would be extremely hilarious. And then he looks back at me seriously. He goes, because his sense of humor just isn't as high as mine. He goes, no, they're white. I go, wow, this is amazing. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. So yeah, people having conversations with large language models and almost getting so suspended in that illusion that they truly believe that they're corresponding to a living, breathing person on the other side and buying the messaging that's coming back is fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. It really does show me, at least, that when humans are introduced to new tools, even though it's something new, something old, they can just fall so far out the other side.
yeah. And it's this meta perspective. And I don't mean meta as in Mark Zuckerberg, this broader view of the experiences that we're having and the tools at our disposal that is necessary. And so when we think about this new technology, AI, these chatbots, when we're using the tool, I think it's important to consider the tool within this broader picture of where does it come from, how does it work, and why does it behave in this way? And when we think about all those, if we understand that, then we can understand how to productively and in a healthy way engage with, heck, even AI companions.
Totally.
Which I spouted a ton of hate on in the
Right.
previous.
So what changed?
I was thinking about the advantages, because if there is no true long-term advantage conferred upon the purveyor of an AI companion, and that would be Meta, Replica, and now XAI or Grok, these purveyors of AI companions, is, aside from making a quick buck, is there some long-term advantage that is conferred upon them that would justify the deliberate hoodwinking of, I guess, an ignorant class that are easy to fool into thinking that this is a real relationship that you have? And I'm sorry to speak in a derogatory way about people that are choosing to believe that there's something real there. But yeah, you're being not even just an idiot. You're fooling yourself. You're embracing stupidity by thinking that there's something real there. There is not. Those are zeros and ones. That's not a real relationship you're having. So I at first believed that there was no true long-term advantage conferred upon them by being purveyors of AI companions. And recently I started to think that because ChatGPT has hit this limitation of recorded information to train on, like they've crawled the whole internet. Even the stuff they're not allowed to crawl, they've crawled it. Copyright law doesn't matter. They've crawled it all. Ironically, I think the one that was among the major large language models, the one that was trying to be the most ethical about it, Anthropic, I think that they might be facing a lawsuit, which is a little tragic, but I'm sure they'll be able to handle it. And so these large language models need more data to train on, because the training data is an important vector of improvement for them. In order to improve LLM outcomes, one of the ways that you can do that is better data and more data. And I think of what the way that Elon Musk has been approaching AI, and I think that he is far and away the leading mind right now when it comes to envisioning how AI can become 100x more of a positive force for humanity and 100x more powerful. And I think that he is that way because he understands that point that I made about training data being an important vector of improvement. And knowing that, he has Tesla out there gathering real world data. No other company is gathering this much real world data about how the physical world functions than Tesla. Tesla has millions of cars out there on the road, and these cars are all gathering data about the real physical world that we live in. And so that's an important advantage that no other large language model has access to. So Tesla's ability to improve with real world training is something that it truly sets Tesla apart. And it truly sets Elon Musk apart, I would say. But it's not just Tesla, it's also Starlink. He has thousands of satellites in orbit gathering information about the way people communicate. Because Starlink now is, I think, far and away the most successful low Earth orbit internet provider today. So they have all this data. They have, and if they wanted to, they could turn their sensors outward and gather data about the universe, the galaxy, the solar system. They also have, if we think about what else Elon Musk has, you've got Tesla, you've got Starlink, you've got X, formerly known as Twitter. All of that information is something that simply doesn't exist anywhere else. And the closest might be on the social media front. Meta and Google might have exceptional amounts of data, but there's probably more thinking taking place on X than elsewhere. And
Sure,
all these folks who are like for political reasons, because Elon Musk has taken a firm right-wing position lately, for that reason alone, I think a lot of people are hating on what's happening on Twitter and X. But there's a lot of truth happening there. And yeah, there's misinformation, just like every other social network. There's a ton of misinformation. But X has this community notes feature, which it becomes this way for gathering moderation at massive scale. And it's this moderation at massive scale that is another source of data. And all of these layers and layers of data that no one else is bothering to gather and tap into, and no one else is training their AI with. This is why I think that X is eventually going to be probably the most powerful LLM within the next 12 to, heck, within the next 9 to 12 months.
Wow.
Then you drop in Optimus data. Tesla now announced, what is it, $1 trillion compensation package that they're trying to get approved for Elon Musk that's centered around this target. You think $1 trillion is crazy, but they're talking about taking Tesla's market cap from, hold on a second. Let's find this article, because this is probably worth looking at. I'm going to Google Tesla trillion Musk compensation. What do we have here? Elon Musk could become first trillionaire under new Tesla pay package. New York Times is paywalled, so I'm going to go CNN as a second result. So there was a condition here, and this condition, I think, makes this $1 trillion pay package reasonable. You heard it here. David Lee thinks the $1 trillion Elon Musk pay package is reasonable, right here on the Boss Mode podcast. Let's see. It is conditional on Tesla achieving, and Tesla today has a current market capitalization of $1.1 trillion.
Right.
Now, the company's worth $1.1 trillion, and they're proposing $1 trillion pay package for Elon Musk. What the fuck? But it is conditional upon him hitting a target of growing Tesla's market cap from $1.1 trillion to $8.5 trillion. So in that context, like, the guy is now adding 7.5. If he adds $7.4 trillion in market cap, then he gets $1 trillion. I think that, is that a little rich? Yeah, but does the math start to make sense? Nobody has created a multi-trillion-dollar company in the history of mankind.
That's nuts.
And the plausible argument is that he will be able to create this multi-trillion-dollar entity. Yeah, you've got Tesla as a car company. And of course, some people will say they're not a car company. Yeah, they're a car company, but they are also an AI company. And they are an AI company that is singularly capable of doing physical world AI through their cars. And that will soon turn into autonomous vehicles. But on top of that, they've leveraged that same know-how and knowledge to create these humanoid robots.
Yeah.
And forget the humanoid robots. They have factories that are dreadnoughts. Their factories are robots. So they already have probably become the leader in robotics. And using AI to train those robots is probably something that's been taking place. And those robots are gathering data about that experience of manufacturing cars. So manufacturing AI training data is something that Tesla also has access to. But when you layer in Optimus, now Optimus is out there in the real world, folding your laundry, mowing your lawn. I think there'll be probably purpose-built robots as there already are, but
Sure.
maybe 10x. But my point is this: they'll be picking up your groceries. They'll be assembling your IKEA furniture. Oh my! Who enjoys assembling IKEA furniture?
Right,
You'll have
totally.
Optimus robots doing that. And Optimus is gonna be this physical world training data that nobody else has, and that's why I think this path to multi-trillion is possible. And through that lens, now it's reasonable to consider $1 trillion pay package.
So from all that, what is how do you think the companion app thing plays into?
Keep bringing me back on point.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
guys,
Well,
I went off on
okay.
this massive tangent because all of that.
Because yeah, I follow, but I want to make sure that we close that loop for everyone else that's playing along at home.
Yeah, absolutely. So this all matters because while there are negative consequences to the rise of AI companions, there is a second order, massively positive consequence that comes from the rise of AI companions. And that is that there's a new realm of data to train on, and that is human emotion. How can we train on human emotion? And gathering human emotion data at massive scale is tremendously difficult. Is there risk involved in helping the machines understand our emotions? There's this like kind of doomsday thinking about GI and the moment when the robots take over, Terminator, Genesis, Skynet, all of that, right? But I think that there is tremendous good in having the ability to, because AI is a creation of us, and AI really becomes a tool for us to dig deeper into our own ability to feel. And if we think about it in that way, then training AI to let us dig deeper into the massive data set of human emotion, I think that has a massive second order positive effect on humanity. And for that reason, I think that there is a plausible argument to be made that there is good to come out of the rise of AI companions, in particular in the hands of Elon Musk.
Yeah. So whenever I was looking at the AI companion apps, I was always, and which is why I signed up to almost like all of them. Whenever the moment I heard about an AI companion app, I'd be like, I want to study this. I want to put me through the onboarding, sign me up to the 7-day free trial, or even if there's like a 1 month to month thing, I'll just jump in. I was always, I guess in it, just inherently, one, I'm a curious person, but then also two, I'm a performance marketer and have seen through. I started running back then Facebook ads back when the right-hand side column was a thing. Inventory was a thing. And
those were simpler days.
Those were simpler days. Sure. Absolutely. Do you know how to use the internet? Great. Go make some money. Launch an ad. Money just flows in somehow. Don't ask why. It just happens. But you play this game for long enough and you realize that the data is the thing. It's the key determinant that made Meta what Meta is right now. Back when it was Facebook pre-iOS 14 and pre-Cambridge Analytica, you could go into Facebook and leverage its polk data to do some really fine-tuned granular type targeting, right? All the way down to credit card usage, all the way, that data was in there. And advertiser like me, and it was non-regulated at this end of town. Anyone who opened up a Facebook ad account and plugged in a credit card could target these individuals of various different socioeconomic bands in various different geographies with various different lifestyle choices. Recently bought a new car, for example. There's just so many different types of targeting. And that had to go away because of Cambridge Analytica being in front of Congress, and that surfaced a whole bunch. And of course, when news like that comes out, they try to drag everyone along with them and just deep pocket all the way up to the root cause. And the platform got dragged in there too. So Facebook had to say, no more poke data. We got to figure this out. And then Apple came along, and then none of that, no more pass through of data from Apple devices. You just go figure it out back then, Facebook. So I've seen I've been in that industry that had all eyeballs on Meta to go, how is Meta going to figure out this data thing? Because it was the data that made them the most efficient ad platform for years and years. I was looking through, the lens of data was always something that I saw even large language models through. And I remember when it was announced that GPT had persistent memory for users now to go, I remember the first time I asked GPT, hey, do you remember that conversation we had last week? It says, yes, of course, we talked about this and this. And I went, oh, snap. If these large language models, no one reads the fine print, but when you sign up to something and it's like an infinite scroll for 4 minutes before you get to the very bottom to say, I agree to all your terms and conditions. If any of these large language models were able to like TikTok this, where notoriously we know that like TikTok has access to almost everything in our phones, that's a whole other level of data, because there are some very intimate conversations being had with these large language models. And right now they are self-policing.
I think that there are some safeguards put in place by the device manufacturers, but I don't think that these large platforms are generally behaving in an honest way. And so they look like they're honest. They look like that they're good, but they're willing to do tremendously shady
gray hat.
Some things merit cursing. They're willing to do some shady shit. It's one thing to think that countries are gathering this data, as in some cases, I think that there are very good reasons for national security that they would, but it's another there's this different layer of violation that is happening when private companies are blatantly flouting laws to gather that level of intelligence on individuals.
Sure, absolutely. It's dude, I'm from Singapore, man. And like I've got buddies telling me all the time, man, Singapore is just so awesome. It's not like the rest of Asia. There's no corruption. And I go, no, you're getting it all wrong. They're just better, way better at playing around with the levels of corruption. That's all it is. The inside deals are still happening, and the side, all that stuff, make no mistake, of course it's happening. Where there's power, it happens. It's just they know how to play the game. Whereas you go to Malaysia and Thailand, there'll be cops being like, so I saw you speeding.
Yeah.
You know that you're speeding.
The quotas that police sometimes have around issuing a certain number of speeding tickets, sure. I think that's also a flavor of that.
Totally. But like these things happen. There's this exit velocity, right? Where these large corporations and governments also they're not wrong to think that they're fairly untouchable. They can throw money at the problem and make certain things go away.
Yeah.
And when it's that competitive, so that's my MO. I'm always going, what's the angle here? Where are they trying to pull this data from? Because exactly to your point, the way to win in programmatic advertising, in any type of engagement algorithm, look at TikTok, look at anything that's trying to grab your attention and refer back to your recommendations of stuff. It's all data. They need so much of it to be able to give it back to users, to have that experience, to get more. So that flywheel is inherently locked in. Large language models are the same. Like users get irritated when you ask it a question and you give the platform responds with something from 2023. Users go, this is bullshit. This platform sucks. So they'll bounce the other one.
Super for anybody who's listening that has felt that. super simple tip. Just ask it to use its web search tool. And
Right.
just append this to your prompt, say, use your web search tool and rely or focus on results within the past X months or X years, whether it's like within the
100%.
past 2 years or the past 12 months, something like that.
Totally. And the default timeline that comes back is it's available like knowledge cutoff within the platform. And then you've got the web search stuff in there. Point being that stuff is happening, developing every single day. Users are changing their behavior, or you have like the millions of different ways that users are using the platform too. So yeah, man, this data thing's real. Like companion apps you get really intimate stuff. I remember one year, and society tries to rail against it. Google Glass 1.0 was a complete fiasco. People got
I was a
punched
glass hole.
People got punched in the and look at where we are today, and people are having no issues with it. Meta Ray-Bans are part of society. They got like Chris Hemsworth and what's his face, Guardians of the Galaxy guy doing ads for the Meta Glass. So it's so much of it is a timing thing.
Yeah.
The permissions just seem to get looser and just get more and more accepted. TikTok has been very notoriously on the news about how its T's and C's are just like pretty much you install TikTok into your phone, it reaches into every single part of your phone. You just go, what's the worst going to happen? I like these videos. Keep it there. Just keep going. So the world's trending in that direction for the sake of convenience and entertainment and all that.
I was intrigued by TVBS. There's me with
that's amazing.
full-on glass hole.
That's amazing. Got Korean Star Trek right there.
I really liked Google Glass.
Yeah,
I think it's a better form factor than Meta Ray-Bans. Because unless you need glasses, there's no actual use of the lenses, right?
Yeah. It's cool to look nerdy, David. That's the goal, right? I remember when everyone showed up with glasses, most part of this year. I think Zuck almost has done every single interview with those glasses just to look a bit like that whole thing going on. But yeah, man, and then I remember when Amazon several years ago tried the virtual try-on thing by offering a product for its users where you could have a camera in your wardrobe. And if you want to stand in front of it, you can ask it what goes well with this, and it would recommend product to you. And society just went, that's nonsense. You want me to let you see me in my underwear? Meanwhile, Alexa,
we don't need that now. We've got Nano Banana.
Exactly. When it comes to data, every company wants it. Every company wants a piece, or if they could, 100% of all of her data all the time. When
it comes to that hunger for data, I believe that Tesla and Elon Musk in particular are taking probably the most comprehensive, sophisticated, and honest approach to gathering the data. There's no, heck, maybe there is, I don't know, but
sure.
There's no buying of a VPN company to circumvent or just steal the data. I think that it's just plainly putting it out there. You engage with this app in a certain way. Our terms of service say that we're going to gather data in methods X, Y, and Z for the purposes of A, B, and C, and providing valuable services using that data for training AI. I think that this multimodal, real world, and human-centric approach to gathering data to train AI, tremendously sophisticated. Nobody is coming close to the way that Tesla is doing it, the way that Elon Musk is doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I think that the AI companions now connect that dot, and I see, okay, the data advantage around human emotion is why Elon Musk is rolling out Grok, Spicy, Annie, because it's everything that comes before that you start to see how humans are interacting with someone in a private scenario. I think that becomes valuable for an AI to improve and learn to work with humans in a better way.
Yeah. What about on the consumer side, though? Because you had a few thoughts around whether it is healthy or not on the consumer end to interface with an AI companion and all that.
Oh yeah, any technology can be used for good and for bad.
Not much change there, compared
to this technology right here. This pencil can be used for good or bad.
If you're John Wick, it could be used for some really awesome stuff.
Yeah, and think AI companions will be used in a very unhealthy way by a lot of people, unfortunately. But I would say this, that knowing that will happen regardless, finding a safer way finding a safer way from the other perspective, just approaching it from a different direction, helping people think about how to use AI in more productive ways, helping people understand what AI is. I think that today we just see too many people, especially younger folks and older folks at both ends of the spectrum. You've got older folks that are proposing, divorcing, and saying they're going to marry their AI companion. That's terrible. But I would say this, that's a symptom of the terrible job we have done as a species, as a society, educating our people. I think that we have too much ignorance. There's too much stupidity. There's too much. Heck, the way that we structure our society is very deliberately shepherding, corralling human beings, the vast majority of human beings, into behaving and living as lemmings in their jobs, in the way that they live their lives. This myth of the middle class existence. And certainly poverty as well. Like we've been treating them like cattle. We've been treating them like lemmings, and that's not okay. I think that there needs to be a break from that. And fortunately, I think now we're in this place where properly educating the vast majority of human beings is finally within grasp. There's this new school, Alpha School, which I think is saying, hey, they're able to teach beyond the standards of K through 12 education, or certainly I think kindergarten to grade 6. Let's pull that up and have a read through while I talk about this. But Alpha School, in 2 hours a day, they'll teach the education curriculum, the elementary curriculum, the elementary school curriculum. 2 hours a day. And the rest of the day they spend on athletics, on art, on debate, on just actual human endeavors, not just the right function to the human brain of semantic knowledge. I think that this is brilliant. And this is only made possible because AI is able to tailor to the individual. I think this is brilliant. Alpha School.
A school where kids crush academics in 2 hours, build life skills through workshops, and thrive beyond the classroom. Wild.
So there's going to be so much more. It's like these guys aren't unique in doing this. They're one of the early providers of this kind of service. But geez, there's just going to be so much more. AI will be harnessed to 1000x education outcomes. We will finally be able to get to a place, and I touched upon this previously. I believe the entire K through 12 curriculum should be compressed into 8 years.
Well,
by the time you get to high school, those are like the peak puberty years. And those are the years when you've already gathered enough knowledge to get out there and experiment with things. And once you finish that K through 12 curriculum, or some improved version of it, maybe it's even denser, than it covers more ground than the K through 12 curriculum in a super dense, hyper personalized experience. Then you spend a few years just exploring your obsessions, trying out different things. It's like the idea of a gap year, right? Except it's not a gap year traveling the world. It's a gap period in your life that is a tremendously valuable gap. This is when you pick an obsession. Maybe you start a company. You do a Thiel Fellowship type experience. You do, because Thiel Fellowship founders, by the way, there's a higher probability of becoming a billionaire unicorn if you were a Thiel Fellow, you dropped out of college, did not go to college, and took money from Peter Thiel instead, than going to Y Combinator. A greater predictor of unicorn status is that than Y Combinator is the Thiel Fellowship. And there's just so much truth in that. Peter Thiel, for all of his, like, people joke about how the guy's a vampire, but I think the idea of Thiel Fellowship is brilliant.
Yeah.
Coming from a high school dropout.
Yeah. That's wow.
Because those years, when you are a teenager, those are years when you're at peak creativity, peak kind of bravery. You're out there willing to explore, try out the world. That's when we should really encourage kids to get out there and try different things and find an obsession and just really dive into that obsession. And if they fail, that is okay. Because if you want to succeed in life, you damn well better get accustomed to experiencing failure.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. That all came from AI companions. I think the two topics of AI companions and large language models being parched for data, there's substantial overlap. So I think we hit two birds with one stone. I talked about the Venice Film Festival. Let's turn to that. The Venice Film Festival. We've got, I don't know how many of you are fans of or aware of Park Chan-wook, the acclaimed Korean director. He directed Old Boy, one of my favorite movies of all time. Brilliant storyteller. And Park Chan-wook, he received this tremendous response to his latest film, what's called No Other Choice, screened at the Venice Film Festival. And it's based on a novel by a 1997 novel written by Donald Westlake. And I picked that up and I read that in a couple of days. It was hard to put down, but I did because you got to sleep, you got to work, and got to feel yourself. And D, I finally started getting some exercise. I went for a 1 hour jog / walk
Let's go.
a couple of days ago, which was really nice. So yeah, hard to put down. Great read. It was fun. It was dark. So it's an individual, and spoilers here, who is laid off from his job as the manager of paper mill. So he managed the manufacture of some advanced papers, right? His company merged, and then they shipped off all the jobs to Canada. And this individual spent 2 years unemployed. Like at the beginning, he talks about how there's this, I'll paraphrase, but a line in the book where he mentions that those of us who were laid off, we thought of it almost like a forced vacation. And we assumed that we would rapidly become re-employed, find a new employer. And months turned into a year, turned into 2 years. And this guy realized like he's now in a very dark place. His kid gets arrested for robbing the local computer store. His wife has an affair because she wants to feel something and she can't get through to him. And he takes a spare bedroom, turns it into a home office, and he's never needed a home office before because he had his office he had his job. And in those days, one did not typically need a home office. And he would sit dejectedly inside of his home office, and he decides, I'm going to kill the guy who has the job that I want. I am willing to murder the man who has the job that should be mine. And then he thinks, but then there are these other candidates who are better than me. I'm going to kill those guys too. So he puts out an ad in the newspaper. And so he's got a little bit of money left over, severance and all that. And he puts out an ad in the newspaper, and it's a fake job description. Massive spoilers here. Guys, stop listening if you don't want spoilers. He puts out an ad, and that's an ad for the perfect job for a guy with his profile. And he gets these resumes, and he filters out a bunch of them. They're too far. They're too aspirational. They don't really stand a chance. But the candidates who are on par with him or better, he puts them on a hit list, and he starts killing them.
That's awesome.
What a read. And I can't wait to see this movie when it's finally released to some streaming platform.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I'm thinking, like, now Hollywood is seizing on this theme of unemployment. It is happening right now. We had a jobs report come out indicating here in the US. Let me pull up the jobs report. 5 takeaways. Here we are. 5 takeaways on a dismal job report published by The Hill. Let me pull that up here. Jobs report. I'll do that on my phone so I can show it on the screen again.
Yeah, nice.
Bloomberg. Oh, no, that's something else. Here we are, thehill.com. I don't know if that's a reliable source or not. So take it.
Hey, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true.
Yeah. So the U.S. economy added a paltry 22,000 jobs in August, adding to concerns about the health of the economy while increasing the chances of interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. The economy lost jobs for the first time since 2020. The latest jobs report includes further revisions to previous months, including an estimate that the economy lost 13,000 jobs in June. That's the first time a jobs report registered a net negative jobs month for the economy since December 2020, when the economy shed 183,000. Jobs are going away. Our first episode talked about how I heard that only 50% of Yale MBA graduates are getting job offers. Something close to zero from, what is it, one of the Cal State schools. Berkeley's comp sci professor posted on social media saying that students with 4.0 GPAs aren't getting job offers. Like, probably the single most hyped job of the past decade has been software engineer, right? Everybody become a software. Go to this coding boot camp. Go to this. You'll come out of it and you'll get a job. And they did. You have these people who barely knew how to do a Google search, who would go to a coding boot camp in Hawaii or in Beverly Hills. And after 2 weeks, they've learned the basics of coding. And then and I'm exaggerating here, about 2 weeks. But then, what is it, 12 weeks? Then they get an internship at Google where they're paid 6 figures. And they get an actual job. These are jobs that shouldn't have existed.
Yeah.
And they no longer do. Those jobs are cooked.
It's a wild, tell you what, man, it's a wild time out there. Speaking about Hollywood and AI, as you were talking through it, I pulled this up. Have you heard of Showrunner? Not only Hollywood's obsession about unemployment, but then there's this whole very meta thing that is happening, which is unemployment within Hollywood. So Showrunner, bring your stories to life with Showrunner. You set the tone, you drive the drama, you decide what happens next. No agents, no studio, no gatekeepers. And if any of you guys, if anyone who understands the way that the filmmaking machine works, would probably appreciate writers and directors a lot more because of how heavy-handed studio executives are getting their mitts all up into effectively the craft of writers and directors. Oh, the studio believes it needs to move here and do that and whatever. So you have to navigate this political minefield of just like people that want to fuck with your vision. And guess what? They're holding the bag. They're the ones holding the money. So you got to do this dance all the time. And meanwhile, over here, you've got a Discord tool that allows for anyone really who wants to sit around and play around with prompts and seed images and all that to come up with their own version of a King of the Hill type art style or this type of Tim Burton art style, and just start putting out very watchable, consumable stories.
Yeah.
So
now this puts a lot of people out of jobs if this takes off, right? So if we think about the animators, right? We think about the people that are drawing. We think about the people that are doing the character animation, doing the illustration. If this takes off, we're looking at a massive shift in the filmmaking industry there as well. And some people would say, "Oh, that's bad," and most people would say that's bad. Now, I have a bit of a contrarian take on this. I'll get to it in a moment because there's some important nuance to it. Yes, the loss of jobs is bad for those people, and my heart goes out to them. But it also affects, they spell it out right there on the website. It says no agents, right? It says no studio guys, right? So it's the individual with the singular creative vision. It's the Pak Chan-wook when the guy has to sell his $300 camera because he doesn't have money for food or for rent before his first movie takes off. It's the individual with the creative vision. That there is a ton of work that an individual like that puts in to bringing his vision to life. There is a ton of craft that goes into that. I believe that guys like that today in the world of AI who truly have vision, right? When they activate boss mode by putting AI to work using tools like what you just showed, then that means that they're no longer at the mercy of the studio exec. They don't need to wait for some studio exec to give them their shot.
Yeah.
They're in control from day one.
For sure. When it comes to, I still do in a lot of ways. My mind wanders to, also because it's in the news all the time, all these conversations around the ethical and moral nature of this technology, and especially in the context of employment and how, oh, this isn't good, it's going to take away jobs, this isn't great. And I go, it's also not good. We don't apply more morality to acts of God type disasters when it's not right that tsunamis show up. It just showed up. It's nature. But much in that same way, they go, yeah, but this is man-made. It's not nature. You can't apply the same standards to it. Sure. But the technological wave, I would go, that almost shows up like a force of nature. It's not one.
If we are of God, and what we are fundamentally at our core is designed to God's intentions, and I don't subscribe to any particular religion, but I think that there is this idea of God that I'm not going to get into too much here, but accepting the notion of something godlike being true, and if we are of God and God created us in this way, like we are the way we're supposed to be, and something that is truly intrinsic to us, like a defining feature of being a human being that lives and breathes, is wanting to create, is wanting to understand ourselves, is wanting to understand the world, to wanting to leave a mark. And all of these things lead us to, at some point, we will create AI because we are trying to create a deeper understanding of ourselves, a deeper understanding of our own capabilities, accelerating our own capabilities, amplifying our own capabilities. That's inevitable. So AI is an act of God.
And right there is where my mind wanders whenever it's on the news, whether it's on TV or in articles, but any kind of conversation around AI and employment, and how the tone is always around like oh, it's not good. These people are going to lose their jobs. What about all these other jobs? To have that conversation, my mind just goes, yeah. However, you can add some type of moral high ground to this and say it's not good, but you can millions of people can have whatever stance that they want about this. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's just coming. You can say whatever you will. It is just going to show up. And I think I don't even know what the profession is called. There used to be a time before electricity was made publicly available and widely available. There was this time where in the United Kingdom, men would climb ladders to light street lamps. That was a job. What are you going to do? No electricity? Fuck that. It's going to take away my dad's job. No electricity for anyone. That's an evil technology. Are you kidding me right now? So it's as much as we can lament and say, or human society writ large can say, we need to regulate this and the union has to come together and present a strong front, because what it's coming, man. You trying to tell everyone, if 1,000 of us stand with our umbrellas on the beachfront when the tsunami comes, we can do something about this. You can feel like you're doing something about it, but guess what? When that tsunami comes, grab a boat or move to higher ground. Grabbing an umbrella and standing in front of there, brave of you, salute. It's an epic way to go, but guess what? You're going to go.
Yeah. And I would say, like, lighting street lamps is a pretty crummy job, right? Working in a coal mine is a pretty crummy job. Heck, I was sitting at a bar having a burger. I looked up the TV and there was a special about they were covering an old railway track, and they were talking about how people would carry materials up this mountain, and then they laid the railway track, and then it increased efficiency 100x. Guess what's going to happen? You need fewer people, they're more productive, a lot of things like that happen. That's a terrible job, lifting heavy loads up that mountain. That is not a job for humans, I would argue. And having some automation take place, it's inherently good, I think. I think that there's absolutely a tremendous amount of good that comes from automation, but there's a tremendous amount of discomfort, a tremendous amount of pain that will happen faster and at greater scale than ever before. And I think that's simply because I'm looking at some numbers that I put together previously. Today, US Census data, 67% of people work at companies with over 100 employees. And if you're working at a company with over 100 employees, chances are you're doing NPC bot-like work, right? Most of your work is NPC-like, bot-like. It's following a system, a procedure. And if you look at companies with over 20 employees, quite a bit of the work is like that. So I would say if we add those guys, you're looking at 83%. 83% of people with jobs are working in companies with over 20 employees. Now, I believe, and so only what is this? Only 17% of humans are working in companies with under 20 employees. Only 6% are working on their own. And a lot of those people are failing out.
Sure.
Their boss mode endeavors are dying off because they're vulnerable. A lot of them don't have the information, the expertise, the skills, the know-how. A lot of reasons why they fail off. Access to capital. And some of them are just plain wrong. The beautiful thing is, for somebody who can turn their small headcount business into something that is thriving, that's a pretty wonderful existence. You are empowered. You are in control of your destiny. You are creating value. You're a lot closer to the creation of true value.
Right. Yeah.
It's just that only 17% of people, maybe 6 to 17% of people who are working experience that. The beautiful thing is AI makes it more likely that more people will be able to experience that for two reasons. One, these companies with 20 to 1,000 employees or more, they're flat out firing a lot of people. And that means that you have to figure out what's next. And since those companies aren't hiring, guess what? You almost don't have a choice. So you're being forced into going into boss mode. I think it's quite productive for society to rapidly force people to take on something that's really good for them. And on the other side of it, it's just easier to start something new today because you can ask AI for advice. You can then take that, go through multiple iterations, take that to humans that you trust and admire, talk about it with them, or just think about it yourself, and you'll get to a better place. You can put AI to work to write the copy for your website. You can put AI to work to put together the bill of materials for this crazy invention that you have. You can put AI to work to do a web search to identify factories that you want to share this bill of materials and idea with, and then get a quotation from them. Just so much that used to take a team of 6, 7, 8, 10 people. And who has access to that kind of capital to hire that many people? Very few people.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. As we're talking, I do wonder if even with this technology, it would still, the distribution curve would still stay the distribution curve across society. It's just that then the ones who would make it out are just afforded more tools now to go faster and not only go faster, but also then have a greater chance of multiple shots on goal.
Yep. Today, because it is cheaper to take a shot, to take your shot, it is faster to take your shot. People are able to more frequently take shots. And that means that as long as they can build up a tolerance for failure and a desire to learn from those failures and maintain that desire to keep going forward.
Yeah, totally.
Fall down 7 times, stand up 8 times, and be stronger for it each time that you stand up. As long as you keep that mindset, because of how cheap it is to rapidly fire off new ideas and turn them into reality, we will see 1,000x more people succeeding.
Yeah. To follow your analogy, because previously falling down the second, third, fourth, fifth time, you could risk like fracturing a leg and cracking a skull open. Now falling over just means, oh, got a little scab on my knee.
Yeah.
Like it's not, because previously it was had to raise so much capital, and falling over could have meant that none of these, I have to like put my tail between my legs with all these investors and all that. Now it's just, let's just put it together, slap something together, put together some social accounts, launch it into the universe, see what happens. All right, move on to the next one. The costs are so less dear in so many ways, not only the financial, but then also even from the among peers. It's not this high pressure type of situation anymore. And I have a lot of pals who raise capital, and I see the pressure on their faces to try to make that work. This was 10, maybe 15 years ago when we all started our like ventures and stuff like that. So yeah, now it's just keyboard, laptop, internet.
Yeah, with that same capital, you can take 20 more shots.
Yeah.
And with no capital, you can get a functioning prototype stood up. Anybody can.
Yeah, wild. Yeah, I'm just, every time we talk, I always leave with excitement about the future, just to see what what the next 12, 36 months look like. It's going to be so wild.
In the next 12 to 36 months, I still stand by this. I believe that we will have, through the traditional lens of looking at the idea of unemployment, I believe we will have 50% unemployment, massive loss of jobs, and that's a ton of pain. And these techno-optimists, that they are ignoring and they are being insensitive to the massive amount of pain that millions, tens of millions of people are going to be enduring. So I think that it's important to, one, acknowledge that is happening. There's no getting around that. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I do want to be empathetic to that tremendous pain at massive scale taking place. But because I am truly empathetic to it, I put a lot of thought towards what then do we do? Therefore, what comes next? And that answer is boss mode. And it's everything that you and I talk about here on this pod. Go forth and create. Everybody.
Yeah, totally. Make some stuff, sell it.
Go forth and be a human.
Yeah, for
Stop
sure.
being a bot.
Yeah, 100%. Man, way to close it out. Love it.
D, as always, good times.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody. Let's go. Boss mode.